Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. If you've never been an Audible customer and want to see what they offer, just go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title for free and start listening. It's that easy. Why Audible? Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, and entertainers. And with this free 30-day trial, you'll have your pick of it all. You can hear books of all genres narrated by Jim Dale, Stephen Fry, Will Patton, Alex Hyde White, Jeff Brick, Neil Shaw, William Demerit, and even a few by me, George Sirois. So go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and start your own 30-day journey with Audible today.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of the award-winning podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire, and you're listening to the Excelsior Journeys with George Sirois. Prepare to ignite.
Is there a burning desire within to share your creativity with the rest of the world? Do you insist on pursuing your passion by any means necessary? Then you are on an Excelsior journey, and you are not alone. Welcome back to Excelsior Journeys. My name is George Sirois. Thank you all so much for being here. I am going to take you back in time a little bit to a period of time that was, you would consider a dark time for the rebellion, because in 1988 through 1992, that was during a time for me that was not very good. I made the move to Richmond, Virginia in the fall of 1988 with my mother and sister. And during that time, my confidence in myself definitely took a nosedive. As it happens to be for a while, you're always in a whole new environment. You're not comfortable there. You're not happy there. Thankfully, I was able to get a handful of friends to keep me afloat during that period of time. But at the same time, my confidence in myself and what I could offer was definitely around rock bottom. And the only thing that I really had that I could kind of grasp onto were the main things that I had were the stories that I would write. And these were basically the evolution of all the characters that I had started working with back in fourth grade. And during this period of time, I was able to evolve them and be able to write more about them instead of just drawing them. And everything really, definitely helped with that. And turns out that one of the things that I was able to do as an unexpected benefit was I was able to attract the attention of a lot of my friends because of these stories. And so what I did was as a means of showing my gratitude for their enthusiasm with them, I started writing them in as supporting characters, and I started just kind of sharing the stories with them more and kind of filling them in on what direction these characters were all going in. And fast forward a little bit to my junior year of high school. It felt like kind of like the clouds were lifting. I felt like a little more confident in myself. My first year in drama class definitely helped when I was a sophomore there. So it definitely felt like I had started to kind of go in this direction. But at the same time, I was dealing with a very long period of stage fright that started from around 1988. I hadn't gotten on a stage since during that point, with drama class not really counting because I was only doing the performances for just that class. So never really went onto a stage until the beginning of 1993, when our junior class was putting together the basic skeleton for our stunt talent night. Now, over at Godwin High School, everything was very basic when it came to everyone's place. And when it came to stunt talent night, that was run by the junior class, and then the money that was raised for that show would pay for the senior prom. And so we wanted to make sure that we were giving our best possible show. And so all of a sudden I get I get a request from a friend and classmate, my friend Brandi, who asked me to be a part of the planning committee for the junior class Stunt Talent Night for 1993. And I accepted. I was very flattered, and I was really looking forward to seeing what I could contribute. And it turns out I can contribute quite a bit because I was able to provide the concept that we were going to use for the overall show. And I even got the credit in the early newsletters as creator of the show. So something like that happens, you definitely get a nice little boost of confidence. And during that time, I was able to be a part of a group, just kind of writing different sketches that were going to take place in between the acts. And one of the things that I had come up with, just kind of on the fly, was a fake hair loss commercial, almost like a hair club for men, except since this was a parody of it, it was using carpet samples and staple guns. And it definitely got a laugh out of me while I was writing it. It got a laugh out of others who were reading it. And when my original idea was to basically just hand this off to another student who was going to do the actual performing. And while it came off kind of boring, according to one of my trusted sources, who was my drama teacher, Mr. Dameron, and I basically just said, well, that's how it was on the stage, but this is how I think it should be. And I went ahead and just performed it myself in front of the planning committee, in front of the teachers and everything. And everyone just kind of looked at me and said, fine, you do it. And this was the day before dress rehearsal when I was given this sudden opportunity. And all of a sudden, I was kind of rushed on stage. And I was petrified until I stepped back on stage. And all of a sudden, as soon as I did that, everything clicked. And all of a sudden, everything was all that fear, all the tension that I had been building up and everything, all the doubt that I had for myself for the past 5 years, it all went away. And all of a sudden, I knew what I was doing. And I was comfortable being back on stage. And I still remember getting off the stage as soon as that happened. And one of my friends, Chuck Wilson, just shook his head and just went, "Stage fright my ass." And the very next day was opening night. And it absolutely killed. It got huge laughs. It was something that I had written. It was something that I was performing. And I even got to kind of hide this little fact that I was getting back on stage to my parents, so that they only knew that I was just writing this particular sketch. They had no idea that I was going to be performing it. And the look on my dad's face was priceless when he, just laughed, gave me a huge hug, during intermission. It was one of those moments one of those crystallized moments that really kind of got me back onto being on stage, which led me to audition for Marymount Manhattan College, which led me to get into the theater program, which led me to not only excel in that department, but also allowed me to kind of fall back in love with writing again and figure out a direction for my life. Now, I'm not saying that none of this would have happened if Brandi hadn't come to me and asked me, but at the same time, that's how the mythology kind of played out. What happened was Brandi reached out to me and she got me on this path that I'm on right now. And so it's something that I always remember, always something I will always be grateful to her for. And thankfully, we've been able to keep in touch. Thankfully, thanks to social media, we were able to be on the planning committee together for our 10-year high school reunion, and through the magic of Facebook, we were able to keep in touch since then. And I got to see her grow as her own business owner regarding physical fitness, because all of a sudden, she is not only gone on to work in Beachbody, but she's also been able to get herself firmly planted as a true authority in physical fitness, and also with her own set of with her own brand of wristbands, Wristful Thinking. And because of all of this, because of the impact that she made in my life, and with everything that she is doing for everyone else, it only seems right that for the second week of 2019, as we go through Resolutions Month, I have her on as a guest to not only share her journey with us, but also to present a little extra bonus for all of you listeners. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Brandi Stewart. Brandi, how are you?
Hey, George. I'm great. What a wonderful intro. Wow. I remember that talent show so much. And I remember I was actually vice president of the junior class. I felt
You
like
were? That's right. That's right.
really special. And I think I was elected because I was kind of like the people's people.
Yeah.
Like I never really fell into like a certain clique in high school. And
Which is hard to do in high school.
it is. People really want to feel they belong to a certain like culture, I guess. But I don't know. I guess I've always felt like just be a kind person and let the people come to me, however they dress, whatever music they like, whatever. I just chose to be friends with whomever wanted to be my friend. And I think that may be what got me elected. But I remember asking you to be
Yep.
involved in that show because you used to sneak your spiral notebooks to me in geometry class with your Excelsior stories in it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I knew you
And
had
that was
some
and that was
creative
during the
input.
time. That was during the first year that I had that Excelsior was created. Actually,
That is
he was
so
created in
funny.
1992. So
Yep.
you got to see him at the ground floor right
That's
there.
pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much. It's really my honor to be a part of your show.
And thank you for being on it. So so I've done my fair share of gushing about you and how you've helped me kind of on get me on the path that I'm on right now. So let's talk a little bit about you. Let's talk about what you consider yourself to be like right now.
Sure. So my full-time job is a fashion designer. That's what pays the bills, and it's really, I do really love my job. I'm really, really grateful. I've known what I wanted to do since I was 8 years old. There's not a lot of people who had a dream as a child, and they're actually able to see it to fruition to their life. And so, similar to how you shared moving, and that struggle in moving, I actually went to 5 elementary schools when I was
Five, really?
growing up, 5. And aside from going to 5 elementary schools, I felt like a very ugly child growing up. I had a very short boy style haircut in elementary school, and
Really?
I did it.
I could not imagine that.
I felt so out of place. I had no say in the matter. It was just one of those things where my parents felt like, let's keep her hair short. It'll be easier to maintain. And I always hated it. I always was envious of the girls in my class who had ribbons in their hair. And I just felt ugly. And I'll never forget um, being mistaken for a boy by a store clerk in 4th grade. And it just kind of just further cemented my lack of self-esteem in my
Oh, wow.
appearance. And so I used to love designing clothing as a child, imagining these elaborate models and, the whole glamorous world of fashion. And it was just kind of an escape for me. And I used to send them into this nationwide comic book called Katie Keene. And the publisher, if they liked your design, would illustrate them on the characters and give you credit in the book as the
That's so
designer
cool.
of this outfit.
Huh.
And it really motivated me and I submitted design after design. And when I was 12 years old, my very first design appeared in the comic. And
Nice.
as you mentioned, the magic of Facebook, I am now Facebook friends with the publisher of the comic. And it's incredible full circle thing for me as it relates to fashion design. But aside from fashion design, George, I have a significant passion in physical fitness and helping people live their best life through a fit and healthy body.
Hmm.
And it's been it's kind of been a side gig for me my whole career.
Right.
every job I've had has known I've been like a cycling instructor or a gym instructor or an athlete. It's never been a conflict of interest or anything. But I certainly do. I love connecting with people and helping them live their best life through a healthier body.
That's awesome. That's just that's an amazing call to have, with that. So, the fashion designer thing really took me by surprise. That's incredible. The fact that you were able to hold on to something
Right.
for that long. That's so great.
Yeah.
This is now I get why we've been friends for so long, because like I've been holding on to, to my characters for as long as I have, and feel that you've been able to hold on to your passions as long as you have as well. Totally get it. Totally get it. Love it.
Awesome.
So let's go to, regarding physical fitness, let's go to that moment, because there's always that sort of lightning bolt moment where you just kind of realize that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. That's how I want to help people. That's my calling. What was that moment for you with that?
Yeah, for sure. So before I really get into that epiphany, I think it's important to share to your listeners, I didn't grow up an athletic person. Being in 5 different elementary schools and moving and stuff, I was never really able to cement my place on a team. I took gymnastic lessons here or there, or played kickball in the front yard, but never anything considered formal training with regard to sports. And when we finally put our feet down in Richmond, when I was in the end of my 5th grade year, again, I kind of dabbled into the swim team, like a seasonal swim team here and there, but never real formal training. Unfortunately, as I've learned from my early childhood appearance, that horrible haircut and the lack of self-esteem that I carried, unfortunately, manifested itself when I turned 13, and I developed anorexia when I was 13 or 14 years old. And it spiraled very, very quickly. In the matter of a month, I lost 20 pounds. And I learned upon entry into the hospital that I had 3 weeks to live had my mother not intervened and shoved me into a hospital.
Wow.
And it was a very confusing time for everybody, including myself, understanding, who am I? What's going on with me? I knew it started from being invited to the homecoming dance in high school and getting a lot of compliments on how I looked in my dress. And I really felt very pretty that night. And it was the first time I really felt pretty ever. And I felt if I could look pretty tonight, I don't ever want to get ugly again. So I just felt like I needed to continue to lose weight. And that meant looking like the fashion models and getting more attention and being in control of my appearance. Unfortunately, once I set the trigger of that unhealthy way of thinking, it was very, very difficult to release myself from its grip. So I struggled with eating disorders of all kinds for a good 8 years consistently. Anorexia, bulimia, compulsive overeating, addiction to diet pills, kind of you name it, I did it all the way through college. And then again, I used to exercise as a means to burn calories or as a punishment, not because I felt like I wanted to have a strong and healthy body. And so when I was an adult and I got my first job out of college, I was able to kind of release the grip of that disordered thinking. And I started developing like a healthy habit in the morning of, exercising on an elliptical just to get some physical movement in. But I still didn't have the body acceptance that was considered healthy. I still kind of obsessed over my appearance. What got me into a healthy way of exercising really was when I started working with a kickboxing trainer when I was around 24, 25, getting ready for my wedding.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to kind of tone up and look really great in my wedding dress, but I wanted to do it a healthy way. And so this trainer was able to teach me balance and able to teach me, we're going to do weightlifting on these days and we're going to do a little bit of cardio at the end, or I'm going to teach you some ab exercises, and I'm going to teach you how to use your body correctly so you don't get injured doing these exercises. And really it was seeing the results and learning to trust this person with my journey. And I think that was a very important shift for me, was handing my journey over to somebody else and not being in total control with my disordered thinking on what I should have been. So that was really the first step, was trusting somebody else with my journey through a trainer.
And, and when you have that right person by your side, like, they're investing in you.
Exactly.
They're investing their time, they're investing their skills.
Yep.
And
exactly.
that's basically like the same. That's a big reason why I have kind of shied away from self-publishing in recent years, because I really like the fact that there's a publisher, or now in my case, and like both a publisher and an agent, that want to invest their time, their energy, their skills to see me succeed.
Exactly.
And, I'm perfectly fine with that. So I know exactly what what that is. Do you remember the kickboxer's name?
His name was Mike. Yeah.
Mike?
I remember it very well. I used to he trained out of his garage, and he always had coffee breath because it was 5 a.m. And I would get like so hungry because I would smell, he would put like flavored creamer in his coffee. So I could smell like hazelnut or vanilla in the air when I'm like starving and working my butt off in his garage. Yeah, his name was Mike.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So from there, once you were able to, kind of get that for yourself, what was it that spurred you to think like, well, like, if I can do this for me, I can do this for other people?
Yeah. So working with Mike was fabulous. He would, be my shadow and showing me how to do the weightlifting and the kickboxing and everything. But I'll never forget one day, George, kind of like how you introduced me with kind of pushing you into this role with the variety show. I'll never forget where, after maybe 6 months of training, Mike said, okay, next time, don't come here, meet me at the park. We're going to go running. And I said, Mike, I don't run. I'm not a runner. And he was like, well, we're going to run next time we meet. And I was like, Mike, you don't get it. Like, I'm here to kickbox. I don't run. And he said, trust me, let's just go. And so I was like really grumpy about it. And I was like, oh, crap. I'm paying him, but he's making me go run, and I don't know how to run. And so we get to the park. It's actually more of a track, out of college. And he's like, let me teach you how to run. And he showed me, how to control my breathing, how to hold my shoulders up, how to move my arms. And, it was a horrible first experience. I was very winded a lot. I didn't have the stamina, but he believed in me, and he never laughed at me or anything. He just taught me how to run. And there again, then I started learning an exercise that I could do for myself, by myself, without him as my shadow. And so we kept coming back running, and we would do drills on the bleachers and that kind of thing. But when I learned how to run, George, I learned how to value my body. I learned I'm able to build stamina and build endurance all on my own. And then I started to really appreciate hearing my breath, feeling my legs get hot from warm muscles. And it was it became a moment of gratitude for my strong and healthy body that I had damaged so much during my youth and young adulthood through eating disorders. Running gave me the ability to really use my body as an instrument to glorify God and the life He's given me. And once I was able to tap into that feeling, that's what really drove me to want to try to help others tap into that same knowledge with their body, that our bodies are a gift and our life is incredible, and our bodies are really, really resilient, and it wants to perform. And I want to teach people how to become their best self and experience this same feeling.
That's awesome. So it's basically just kind of like, just like what you said, that, you felt it, and you felt so strong about it and you felt the results of it. You felt that sort of, that same feeling of gratitude that you were just like, all right, I need to share this.
Exactly. Because I feel like when God gives you a gift,
Mm-hmm.
you can't keep it to yourself, right?
Right.
I mean, he gives us a gift to help others. I mean, I believe our job, if you will, is
Mm-hmm.
to help God's help plan evolve. We are instruments of God's plan. And
Yeah.
so, as you are with your creativity and your words and everything you do, you help inspire people to have the courage to follow their dream, and I feel my story with eating disorders and my struggles in finding balance and all that, I have an obligation to help others learn these things because God has shown me how to do it. And I feel for me, it would be wrong not to share it.
Yeah. And that's something that I personally just kind of like need to kind of almost like come to grips with myself, because there are so many people that are just like, well, tell me about your books. And I always kind of like, get a shrinking violet and everything, just
I know.
because I'm
Yeah.
talking about my own stuff. I'll gladly talk about other people's stuff. I'll gladly,
Yeah.
which is a big reason why I started this podcast,
Right.
because I looked through all of my friend, like my friends list on Facebook, and I was just like, wow, I know so many great, talented people that are all sharing their gifts, with the world, and people don't know about them. They need to be in the spotlight. They need to be given this kind of credit on a larger platform. They need to be on a podcast. And then all of a sudden it was just like, all right, I guess they're going to be on my podcast. So
I'll just do it myself.
right, because like I shared that news, with everyone, and everyone's just like, yeah, you're right, and that's it. That's all I hear. And it was just like, well, fine. And then all of a sudden it was just like, all right, well, I'm starting my own. And then and then one by one, I'm reaching out to those friends, and everyone, God bless them, they are so happy to be a part of it. And that's something that it's one of those moments where it's just like, okay, I guess I'm doing something right here. It's
Right.
Was that kind of how you felt when you got your first clients?
It did, yeah. So my journey in fitness has primarily been as a group exercise instructor, and then also as a kind of an online fit coach, because I love teaching in a class environment at the gym. I could have upwards of 30, sometimes more people in a class, depending on the style of class.
Mm-hmm.
But then I felt like, well, I'm kind of hindered. Like I'm only able to teach and help those within my own zip code who can physically come to this space. And so then I tapped into the Beachbody community to help others beyond my zip code. And now with the Beachbody community, they have their own workouts through their own super trainers. But my background and my training and certifications in teaching group exercise give me the knowledge to see how well designed these programs are. And I'm able to help people who come into my circle, if they say I'm 30 pounds overweight, or I have really bad knees, or whatever, I can already direct them to programs that are better starting points for them, because I understand all of their programs. And I can, help people better succeed at the start. And starting is always the hardest part.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's
That
always
is.
so tough.
So yeah, so you're getting them on that, in that proper direction that they need to go, because
Yeah.
physical fitness is not exactly a one size fits all kind of
No. Yeah.
thing.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. And even in my fitness classes, when I design classes, I always show a modification for any exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And just really, I think a lot of it is so much as mental. It's just encouraging people to don't give up. Imagine how good you're going to feel when you finish this, not having given up. And I can read people's faces pretty well, and I can tell when I say something that really affects them, and I
Mm-hmm.
see them pushing hard. So I've been a group fitness instructor. I started with the indoor cycling discipline, and I'm still an indoor cycling instructor. It's been about 15 years now that I've
Mm-hmm.
done indoor cycling. And then I got certified into weightlifting, and I've done water fitness, boot camps, pretty much anything but yoga and dance.
Mm-hmm.
I really love, because as you mentioned, fitness is not one size fits everybody. There are some people who get their giggles through all cardio. There's some people who love just weights. And I feel by being certified in teaching these various disciplines, I can reach more people and help inspire them live their best self.
That's so cool. That's fantastic. The way that that sort of attitude, that you have with
Yeah.
it. So,
Oh, well, thank you.
you were mentioning Beachbody. How'd you get involved with them?
Well, I got involved with them because even despite being a regular fitness instructor, when I hit 40, the age of 40, I got a new job that required more sitting than I was used to. So I had to cut back my teaching load at the gym. So we put in combination, cutting back my physical activity, adding more sitting, and then I would find that I would just kind of grab handfuls of food here and there to like keep the day going.
Mhm.
Within 18 months, I'd gained 30 pounds.
Oh, wow.
It was really kind of devastating for me, and I felt really conflicted because I was still teaching classes when I could, but
Hmm.
I mean, I had all this weight all of a sudden on me, and I didn't feel comfortable in my skin at all. And also, the classes that I was teaching were primarily cardio classes, and
Hmm.
so I wasn't getting the right balance of exercise, and I think that also impacted my cortisol stress hormone. And so not only my body have the stress of the new job, the difference in physical activity, but also when I did have physical activity, it was all high heart rate cardio driven, which also built more stress on the body.
Right.
And cortisol can, they call it like it grows belly fat. So
Yeah.
I certainly did. I grew some belly fat. So I found Beachbody. I'd already seen their DVD commercials on TV, and I never really paid attention to them.
Hmm.
But I figured out that where I had been was either I was going to like pay a buttload of money for some ridiculous, I don't mean ridiculous. If people choose plastic surgery, that's their right. But for me, I was like, this is ridiculous. Why am I considering plastic surgery when I could probably lose this weight through exercise? But I was actually considering plastic surgery,
Oh,
or
wow.
I had to just try something else. And so I tried in-home fitness, and I
Mm.
started doing a particular program that had a really great balance of cardio and weightlifting as well as nutritional guidelines. And I
Mhm.
followed the program to a T, and I dropped a clothing size in my first month. And
Wow.
it just kind of gave me my confidence back. So, and I also learned, even though I'm an active person in the gym, I learned that I needed to dial it back in some areas. And just again, it's all about trust to this other program
Hmm.
to lead me where I needed to go with regard to my health and wellness. And it worked. So again, a lot of this is trust and relinquishing control and giving it into the expert's hands.
It's funny that that you mentioned that it was a new job that kind of spurned that weight gain, because that took me back to during the time that my wife and I tried paleo,
Yeah.
and we're actually doing it again
Hmm.
this year, and we're doing it. We're definitely committing to it a lot harder, because we have a constant we have a constant motivation around us that we can always see, and that's our daughter Scarlett. And so, with that in mind, it just kind of took me back to that period of time, because when I started paleo, it was during the last 2 months of the job that I was working, and it definitely felt like I was making some progress. But it was after I finished with that job, and when I was in between jobs, and during this period of time that I was looking for a new job, that was the time that everything seemed to click the most regarding the weight loss, because I wasn't sitting at a desk all day,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I wasn't constantly I wasn't constantly like forced to stay there with only like an hour of reprieve and everything to to go out during lunch break,
Yeah.
and I could basically just kind of go on my own terms. And that was when I fell in love with running during that time, because I picked up the C25K app, and
Oh.
that got me into that introduced me to running during a time that I was just very much like hissing at it, the same way that you were not a fan of it before you started.
Right.
You
And what
know?
is it about running? People just are very opposed to it when they start.
But then once you start it and you get into that rhythm, it's just like,
Yeah.
what kept me from doing this for so long?
I know. It's actually so true. I feel like that for any type of exercise. I think you just have to get over that mental hump, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
you just have to decide. Like I tell people in my classes, I'm like, number one, you're going to get sweaty, you're going to get hot, you're going to get uncomfortable. Let's embrace this now and get moving. And, you know, once you just acknowledge that and move aside, just go. Like your
yeah,
body is made to move. And I think that people also tend to set an expectation of their performance at such a high level
hmm,
that they're automatically set up for like emotional failure. So
yeah,
as it pertains to resolutions, honestly, like number one, the decision to get healthy is number one on the list. Congratulations on deciding to get healthy. Number two, how are you going to get healthy? Well, if you're not moving right now, make a plan to move 3 times a week for 20 minutes to start. Just
yeah.
20 minutes.
Yeah, and that's kind of the pattern that it was with it is on the C25K app, because I think it's like either 3 times or 4 times a week. You have to have those, those breaks, those day breaks in
Yes.
between.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great, like being able to do that. I mean, not only was I sleeping better during that time,
Mhm.
I wasn't snoring,
Yeah.
which meant that my wife was sleeping better. But it also means that I was getting up at 5 in the morning to run. And then,
Mm-hmm.
and then during the time that I was, like I had gotten a job, and and I actually like was able to sustain the running a little bit longer after I got the job. Um, but during that time, like, I mean, I was, I would, go in and take a shower and everything and get dressed and stuff. Like I would start my morning in such an atypical way of me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, it threw me off a little bit. It was just like, am I really doing this? And
Right.
we actually got into a position where we were both able to participate in a 5K turkey trot on Thanksgiving Day that year.
That's
And so,
awesome.
like, I still have my number and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
cleared the whole thing in 45 minutes. It was a 5K,
That's
so there was
awesome.
like a combination of, for me, it was a combination of running and walking, but
Yes.
still did it.
You still finished it.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
finished it under 45 minutes. Like that,
Yeah.
that to me was just like, that's a huge thing. So it's
Wow.
those kinds of milestones that I'm looking back on. And like you said, like, it sets you up, like your body, like automatically sets you up for emotional failure. And that's kind of what,
Yeah.
I am dealing with right now, because, like, yeah, it felt great and everything to do those things. And I got to hold on to that and
Yeah.
not hold on to the fact that I just let myself go, like
Right.
after that running that turkey trot, so
Well, here's the thing. Most everybody listening to this, I'm sure, knows what it feels like to fail.
yeah.
Or most people know what it feels like to have a plan not turn out as hoped.
Hmm.
However, how many of these people know the feeling of succeeding, of
Yeah.
having a goal and accomplishing that goal? And many people probably have, but most people probably fall in the first category. And so
Yeah.
this is why I think setbacks occur, because once we start developing these healthier habits and we start seeing weight loss results, or we see our cravings disappear, and for some people that can get a little scary. That can kind of get a little commitment phobic. Like, how am I going to maintain this? Like, am I truly ready to embrace this new lifestyle?
Hmm.
Maybe my spouse isn't on board and supporting this. Maybe my family is pushing junk food on me because they like the old me that they've known for 30, 40 years. And so it's a huge commitment to decide I am going to see this through. And no matter what evolution comes my way, I'm going to embrace that evolution and invite it to stay. And we just have to get our mindset ready for success. But we
Yeah.
also have to be patient with that success. You know,
Yes.
if it took you 30, 40 years to get to where you are now, you're not going to see your new best self in 6 months and hold on to that same best self for the rest of your life. You know,
Right.
we have to understand that this is a journey. And
Hmm.
as long as we hold on to that positive mindset of healthy weight loss, and when I say healthy weight loss, it means, you know, moving in a smart and healthy manner. It doesn't mean you're killing yourself in the gym an hour, 2 hours every day. It doesn't mean that you are on a really highly restrictive caloric diet. It means that you're making a conscious decision to not eat the chips. I'm going to grab an apple or carrot sticks instead. Or if I love chips, I'm going to let myself have chips on Friday. It's it's having more grace in our decisions to know and start living like the person we want to be. You know,
Yeah.
you start thinking to yourself, how does the new Brandi or the new George feel in this situation? Well, they're probably going to order this on the menu and not that.
Right.
So it's about embracing a new mindset and then just slowly moving towards it so it doesn't feel so scary.
And also just kind of thinking back to those times when, like, okay, so I was successful on, like there were two, for me, there were two major periods of time when I was the most successful in my weight loss. That was 2003, my first go around with Weight Watchers. And then there was the time on paleo. Both of those times I looked better than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And felt better and dressed better, and like everything was just like it was all there. So thankfully I have like if I just kind of push aside the fact that like what happened afterwards wasn't as good,
Mm-hmm.
and just concentrate on, okay, well, what got me there? What
Right.
was that that allowed me to get there in the first place?
Right.
And a big thing was just being sick and tired of feeling the way I was, looking the way I was,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to making that decision to make the change for myself, and um not just like letting someone else make that decision for me. um
Exactly. Yeah, because I mean, I have had so many friends at the gym where they'll say, "My husband bought me this boot camp package,"
yeah.
or, "My best friend bought me this for Christmas." And sadly enough, in those cases, those people drop out of the boot camp. Like they don't want to get up at 5 in the morning and go to this class. Like it's
Right.
a sweet gesture, but they weren't into it. Like they weren't ready. So you really have to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
You really do.
And everything that you're saying is so like inspiring. And what wound up happening, what I believe what wound up like coming from that inspiration is what led you, if I'm not mistaken, to Wristful Thinking.
Gosh, so Wristful Thinking, thank you. So this was an invention that I did several years ago, back in
Mhm.
2011. So Wristful Thinking is kind of the love baby of my my experience in professional career in fashion design, as
Mhm.
well as my love of fitness. And it wasn't that I sat down one day and thought, I'm going to invent a wristband. What happened was, to be a fitness instructor, you have to have CPR certifications and first aid skills,
Mhm.
because anything could happen in your classes. You need to be ready to react before the first aid personnel arrive. And so I remember getting this idea that I wanted to run a half marathon. This was back in like 2011, 2012.
Mhm.
And so I started training for this half marathon while my kids are in daycare. And as most people who plan on runs, that you never run the actual distance in your training. You always go right up to that miles, and you do the actual mileage of the event on race day. So I remember doing my training and staggering it accordingly. And my longest training one was just over 10 miles. And I remember feeling this voice in my head that's like, this is so painful. This sucks so bad. Like, why are you even going to do this half marathon? You're going to hurt yourself. And I know now that was the voice of the devil. That was the voice of the devil trying to get me to not do this race. But I remember my coupon clipping budget side said, you know what, Brandi, you already paid the entry fee. Just go to the race and just do your best and see what happens. And so I followed my budget friendly self and showed up on race day. I didn't have anyone to run with. I just ran it by myself. And lo and behold, George, I'm running this race and I'm remembering all the teachings I learned from my first trainer about arms and how to breathe and so forth. But at mile 10, I'll never forget, that's where the pain in my hips and pelvis started to set in. And I was like, God, this is a painful run. This is exactly where I wanted to stop when I was training. But at that moment, I looked at the side of the trail and there was a lifeless runner laying on his back.
Oh my.
And he was pale in the face and his mouth was open. He had a race number pinned to his shirt and he had several people crouched around him, gently prodding at him. But it was very clear nobody knew what to do to help this runner. And I was so shocked in seeing him. My mind went completely blank. I forgot about the pain in my pelvis. I forgot what my name was. I forgot everything, including that I was CPR certified. I forgot everything.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, what do I do? And I just kept on going. I mean, that part of the race wasn't out and back, meaning you go to the end of one road, you turn around and go down that same road to a different turn.
Mm-hmm.
But it was shortly after I'd passed that gentleman, I thought, oh, crap, I'm CPR certified. And I totally forgot that I knew CPR. What do I do now? I remembered in training that your body only has 3 minutes worth of blood in their veins to nourish the brain between, at any given time. You only have 3 minutes of healthy blood left in your veins. So it's immediately important to start CPR as soon as the start of a cardiac event, because you need to get that blood continuously moving in their veins so they have longer than 3 minutes before paramedics come. So I started asking myself, had that guy been down longer than 3 minutes? Could I even do anything if I had jumped into CPR? I didn't know, but I did know that when I turned back down that road and made that turn, the paramedics were there and they were moving in slow motion. There was no urgency in their movement. They pulled out the AED paddles almost as a protocol and applied it to this gentleman. It almost seemed like they had to do that because that was protocol for any call, but it was very clear that man didn't make it. And so when I finished the race, I looked at my time and I just felt like crap. I got my medal and I was like, great, I finished. And I went to my car and I asked the guy stretching next to me his finish time. It was like 5 minutes before me. And I asked him, did you see that guy? And he goes, yeah, I saw the same guy. So I knew that it was probably too late for me to do anything anyhow.
Right.
But I told myself, still, I felt terrible. And I said to myself, if I had had something on my wrist to remind me that I knew CPR, I would have jumped right in. So I took my technical textile knowledge and I created a flat surface sweatband. Now, all sweatbands we know of are fluffy and like what tennis players wear. And you can't get any adequate graphic on a fluffy surface. Right. So I invented a flat surface sweatband and I got a patent on it and I called it Wristful Thinking and I launched it with hands-only CPR instructions applied to it so that any runner could have a functional sweatband on their wrist to wipe sweat away. But if they needed the CPR instructions, they were there where they could see it and immediately jump in if they were ever in my situation.
Wow.
So that's what started Wristful Thinking wristbands. And then I evolved the collection to include motivational sayings because we know exercise is not always easy. Right. And so I wanted people to keep the positive thinking where they could see it. I've had a lot of great stories from people using the wristbands, getting personal best times in races because they needed that positive thinking. Thankfully, no one's told me they've needed it for CPR because that's always a scary scenario, but I'm really grateful to have that product available for people in case they ever need it. It's there.
Right. Yeah, during the whole time that I've known of Wristful Thinking, I've always been privy to the motivational sayings that you have on there, but to know that started out and the first version of these bands is that CPR training. That is amazing.
Right.
That is so amazing. And that's serious. That's some serious clutch thinking right there. To come up with something like that. That's incredible.
Well, thank you. And that's where I feel like it's divinely inspired. I feel like, that negative voice in my head in that last training run of don't even go to the race, like the devil will always try to stop us where good's about to come. You know, when
Yeah.
there's good around the corner, the devil's going to show up.
Right.
And so, and that's really a lesson for anything when we're trying to inspire positive change, is just really pay attention to the good voice. And so I really feel very honored to have this ability to create this product and sell it to people. And so they're on wristfulthinking.net. And I'm just really proud of it. So yeah, it started with CPR instructions, and it kind of has its another life in other forms on the website.
And speaking of wristfulthinking.net, you have a coupon code to give to our listeners as well.
I do.
Right?
Yes, I do. So when they enter Excelsior Journeys as a coupon code, your listeners can get 35% discount on any purchase on the website. And I hope that they're able to get some of this product to help inspire them on their journey, because everybody deserves to live their best life. And our bodies are a huge component of that. Our bodies are made to move, and our bodies are so resilient, and they will heal themselves no matter, in most cases, no matter what you put through it. Now, if you have a situation where you need medical advice and medical care, definitely honor and trust those medical professionals. But if you're like most people, where it's up to you and your mind to get up and get moving, I hope that this wristband can be a tool to help keep you inspired and motivated as you go.
Fantastic. And is there anything else that you'd like to would like to plug for yourself? Anything that's coming up? Any sort of events you have coming, or any turn in the evolution of your business?
The evolution of Brandi. Yeah, no, that's really kind of you. Yeah, I just really want to just leave on with your listeners, just to always know how great their life can be. I mean, my life is by no means perfect. We all will face stress and struggle every day, but our bad health doesn't need to be a part of that. So if you are interested and want to get moving into a healthier direction, if you have questions about proper meal planning, if there's a diet fad that you're confused about, or you have questions on exercise, anything, I'm always happy to answer questions and help point people in the right direction. And they're welcome to email me at brandifitcoach@gmail.com. That's Brandi with an I, fitcoach@gmail.com. And I'm happy to help direct them into a place where maybe it's helpful for them to get moving in where they need to go.
That's fantastic. So Brandi and I have known each other now for over 25 years, and it's been just an absolute pleasure having her in my life, being her friend. And I really hope that all of you have that Brandi in your life, somebody who can kind of push you into a direction that you weren't sure if you were going to go in, but then it turns out that you can't imagine your life without going in that direction. And
that's right. Yeah.
Brandi had her moment with that. With that, I had my moment with her, and there are so many chances that we have to find our calling, to use it to its nth degree, and it's something that you definitely need to keep an eye out for, especially in this new year. So
you're right, George. And the ingredient that helped you and me was trust, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's trust. So
yeah.
So that's a great way to end this story, is be open to the invitation, and try and trust and move forward with it and see where it goes.
Absolutely. So yes, definitely, trust that the person who is guiding you in this positive direction is going to lead you into something great. And
exactly.
And that's what Brandi did for me. It's something I will never forget, and I hope that all of you have found are able to feel that motivation to go in that direction yourself. Whether it's coming from this show, whether it's coming from somebody else in your life, whatever it is, please keep an eye out for that inspiration, for that motivation, because you never know what you're going to find. So thank you so much, Brandi, for being a part of this show. Thank you so much for being my friend for all these years.
It's my pleasure.
And for Brandi Stewart, this is George Sirois saying to all of you, ever upward.